Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, and I've called the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Sure, Ms. Bouchard, present, Ms. Olson,
Present?
Mr. Boggs,
Present.
Ms. Weatherby. Present.
Excellent. We have a meeting agenda. It is a pretty stinking light meeting agenda. But I wanted to see if anybody else had anything else they wanted to add to the agenda this evening. Hearing nothing, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to privilege of the floor. There is no one in the public joining us in person. And at this juncture, I see nobody in the public joining us online. We do have a second privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting. So if anybody joins and wants to speak or shows up during the meeting, we'll have another opportunity for that. That moves us on to old business. First off, it gives me great pleasure that Mary, you are here to also talk about the process we went through and the fact that we are bringing a contract to the board for needed IT and cybersecurity consultant services. This is the IT committee comprised of Mary, of Linda Little, myself, Carissa, and Michelle Wright. Did an RFP was put together that Michelle largely put together. We worked with Greg Potter at the county, who was incredibly helpful in helping guide the development of that RFP. It was reviewed and approved, obviously by the committee and the town board. We put it out for entities to apply. We ended up getting Michelle 7 or 8. I can't remember if the number was 7 or 8. It was roughly 7
Yeah,
or
I
8.
think it was 8.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Different firms who submitted applications. Some of the applications were not actually applications really for our project, which helped narrow down the list. And the IT committee interviewed and very substantively delved over the packages put together by 3 of the firms of the 8. The other ones got narrowed out got pushed out for a variety of reasons. One was, I think, at least, I don't know, 500, 1,000 times higher in bid.
Yeah.
Than us.
148,000.
Yeah, it was just hysterically
this
funny.
Project.
Ouch.
Yeah, so and then there was a firm that wasn't actually a firm that does the work. They will just connect you with people to do the work, which is also not quite what we were looking for. But I mean, so that's how we narrowed it down to the first cut of 3, and we had 3 very viable firms that we interviewed. And then the recommendation came, it was unanimous from the committee to go with Advanced 2000. They are a Buffalo firm, and the way the process will work is that they're going to do a first phase assessment for us. And that's what the contract will be for. And that they're going to come in and basically they're effectively going to do an external audit for us of our systems. And because the comptroller obviously issued their report, but the comptroller, their audit was not, it was selective. It wasn't all encompassing. This one's going to be all encompassing to make some recommendations of how we can turn our operating systems, our software, our hardware, and into the best practices for the 21st century. But it doesn't mean that we have to take every recommendation. They're going to be giving us an assessment and then some directions that we can choose to move in. And so I think that in my opinion, and I'd like to love Mary, if you have thoughts too, Carissa, if you have thoughts, Michelle, if there's anything else you guys want to add. I thought I personally found that I thought they struck the right balance of they're large enough to have that capacity for understanding what's happening in nationally, globally, in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of best practices. But they're also small enough to know how to, it's a local government. They have a history of working with local governments. They got started working in some small way with local governments, particularly Tonawanda, Lockport, the Niagara Erie region. So it's kind of I thought as kind of the best of both worlds with this particular firm. Mary, what were you?
Well, yeah, I think that, the broad range of capabilities that they seem to have was a definite positive for them, and also their their availability 24/7 with support. So should something happen, we wouldn't have to wait until, the office opened the next day to have it dealt with. But yeah, I thought you summarized pretty well the advantage of this company.
Krista, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would say, I appreciated the knowledge that they had, and also their accessibility and being able to communicate things to us in a way that made sense.
That was helpful for those of us who are not of the IT industry itself. Michelle, was there anything else you wanted to add about the process or anything else?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say that might not have been particularly emphasized so far is that it seems like they are used to working with operations our size, but have access to resources and staffing that could, they're used to working with larger and smaller. So it's the best of both worlds, where they know how to work with small groups, but they also have the resources that would fit a larger organization. So they seem to be, a regional good fit in that way. Looking forward to the process for sure.
Yep. So the contract we have for them, the resolution is presented where, as I had, I was communicating back and forth with the board. Basically, we're still waiting on the final green light from our insurance broker. So legal has reviewed it, perfectly happy with the contract. Michelle, do you want to talk about kind of the resolution is set up so that we could go into contract as soon as our insurance broker signs off on it? Can you explain why we're kind of?
Oh, yeah, and he has signed off on it, but he did just want to push back on one detail that he was like, all right, well, if we have to do that, then that's fine. But I'm waiting to hear back from Advanced 2000 about, and if we want to start talking about the technical definitions of the particular, it's
I can give us very very high level summary because I don't understand the technical details, so therefore I could not inadvertently say them in a way that might be compromising. So basically, both of our insurance entities have to be in agreement with each other, because insurance related to cyber, not even cyber, it's really insurance related to software and tech. Like anytime you buy an app, you consent to 20,000 pages of really minute text. It's that kind of system in IT. It's one of those places where everybody wants to completely indemnify themselves from everything. And so it's a kind of a known feature of IT, and the insurance companies just have to be in perfect sync on that. So ours is fine if it's not a deal breaker. It's not that big of a deal. They just have to, we've been going back a little bit back and forth on related to literally the insurance of, essentially it would boil down to if we cause harm to them and they come back and sue us type of thing, which sounds a lot more scary and technical than it is. It's just really related to software. Is that
Cause harm to who?
the other company? No, to Advanced 2000.
Oh,
And it's one of those things where when I was talking to the attorney about this, insurance companies have to agree that they are feeling comfortable about each level of risk with each other. That is any likelihood is the likelihood of their client harming the other client balanced out by the likelihood of that other client harming their client. So they have to be, it's like you want to have the two levels of water be the same. And so they're balancing the insurance language
so that they both feel, 50% comfortable in the language. Again, it's granular details that really don't, I mean, the lawyer has signed off on everything. So it's really, is that, Michelle? It's very difficult to explain.
Yeah, it was, it's been explained to me by our broker, and the fact that he was comfortable with the way that it was presented in the board packet. He just basically wanted me to push a little bit more to see if we could get a little bit more of what we wanted, but he was totally comfortable with the way it was. So
Because that's what lawyers, brokers want you to do. They always want a little more than what you have. So, but at the end of the day, nobody's particularly worried about.
So did they literally sign off on it?
Michelle?
no, I mean, over email and verbal, they do, but do you mean sorry, Michael, I guess I'm confused. What do you mean by who?
The broker sign off on it.
Oh, yes. Yep. He's like, try to get it. And if not, it's totally fine. Is what he said.
But when the resolution went out, we did not have that final because that
Yeah.
happened this afternoon, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's why we left, but so do you feel comfortable leaving that in, or can we remove the upon insurance broker component?
Why don't you leave it in for now, just in case there's any further conversation based on what comes out of the response, advanced 2000 response.
Okay, that's fine. So, and and Nate has signed off on either version, so there's no legal concerns, one way or the other. So with that very convoluted, complicated, I don't think I did a very good job, way of explaining it, because I personally don't understand that level of insurance granular detail. I accept a motion to approve the resolution to contract with Advanced 2000 for IT strategic development and temporary IT support.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just what is the timing?
Soon, Michelle, they're coming in,
March 8th.
thank you, March 8th and
Oh.
9th.
Alright.
They
Yep.
anticipate within 6 weeks of having a report, so
Alright.
we're gonna be able to go quickly.
No,
So,
that's great. in the
yep.
spring.
Yep. That will just give us the report of which direction we can possibly decide to go, and then the actual real work. But the good thing is too, is this contract, as the resolution says, they're also capable of providing us temporary IT support immediately, because there have been situations where we're transitioning out as the board knows. Maybe Liz, I don't know if you know this. We've had for many years, we've had a wonderful gentleman providing his IT assistance both to us and to the village. And he informed us last summer that he's going to be retiring this summer. And so having some transition, it doesn't mean we have to contract long-term with Advanced 2000 to provide service if we, decide to go in a different direction for that service level. But they can help in the interim as necessary, which
Okay.
is good to have some backup.
Okay.
Excellent. Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the resolution as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then the next item is is authorization to contract with the Thompson County Soil and Water for stormwater related services. This is a contract we approve every year, and it is so standard that we've actually already approved it for 2023 in the organizational documents. However, in the organizational documents, we internally screwed up and put the rate at $50 an hour instead of $55 an hour. And so I have a copy here if anybody wanted to look through it physically. The contract is the same. It's but because we already approved it and it listed it at $50 an hour, we needed to come back and modify it to $55 an hour. I will be making a request to do a further resolved, Carissa, of repealing the approval from the January 5th, 2023 meeting of the contract. When I talked to Nate, he just wanted to make sure that it was clear that we're actually we repealed the first one and we're approving the new one at the appropriate rate. So,
You do that all in the same motion?
yes. we'll just do that. Can that just be a further resolved?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. So with that alteration, does anybody have any questions about that? It was really just a screw up internally.
So did you move that?
I'm moving that, yeah.
Okay, second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on it?
No.
Okay,
I didn't want to try to re-summarize that.
I don't blame you. I will, I think that's.
That was a mouthful.
I need periods in my statements tonight. I'm having a mentally long-winded night, I think. Okay, so we have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And then that brings us to the only new business tonight. And that would be that we have, when budgets get put together in the fall, they are best guesses of needs and or a way to fulfill needs. Subsequently, there has developed a need because of staffing hours and the related to personnel. And if we want to discuss those in detail, that's fine. I would just we'll need to go into an executive session to discuss a particular employee. But the highway department is anticipating this summer needing to hire temporary seasonal assistants in order to be able to fulfill the project needs. And we have determined that there is no financial impact. And it's because of, again, some things I'd be happy to talk to you about in executive session, but I don't want to relate anything confidential about any particular employee. But the money it would be covered under the current budget to be able to hire a temporary seasonal person at a rate for $19 an hour for 40 hours for up to 16 weeks. We're putting this together now with the anticipation that the highway superintendent would be hoping to hire somebody to start approximately around May 1st to get that, to enable the bulk of the construction season, construction work, to have this position in place. So
Is that a
that's,
CDL person?
it could be just a laboring position. It doesn't need to be a CDL. So this is in keeping with our union contract. There's no issue there. It's, I've made it clear that it has to stay within the budgetary capacity of the existing the highway department. And we think that this kind of strikes the right balance in being able to do it. Again, it doesn't mean we're going to go out and immediately hire, but I wanted to be ready now so that if that need is fully manifest this summer, I didn't want to be behind the 8 ball trying to find labor.
So moved.
Excellent. Second. Any further discussion or questions?
So what we're talking about here is not hiring somebody for a couple of months.
Yeah, no, the idea would be that we wouldn't hire, Scott this gives us the ability really to be able to post the job because it's not a job we currently had budgeted for. And we would anticipate that we probably would need to advertise for at least a month, maybe more. And, the labor market being what it is, I don't know how competitive it's going to be in the summer. But so that in an ideal world, he can start going May 1st. That might change, though. We might find we don't need it the entire summer. We might find that that the personnel staffing is actually the impact is less than we're currently anticipating. So that's kind of where we are. But this enables Blixey to post a position through civil service. Any other questions about that? Okay, and then I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving this?
Aye.
I as well. And we are just trucking along. We have two
Set a
meetings.
record, Caitlin.
I know, well, no, I'm sure, I think we had one meeting, Chris, didn't we have a 6-minute meeting
Yes.
at one point? So I don't think we can
That-
really do
A
it.
regular town meeting?
No, it was not a regular
Okay.
town meeting. It was a special meeting. Special doesn't count. Well, typically, this meeting gets canceled in February. This is a routinely canceled February meeting in the last several years.
Because there's nothing.
Because, yeah,
AOT meeting, right?
yeah,
Is that right?
Michael's at AOT.
Yeah.
I typically travel, and Rich is usually gone at the end of February also. And Mary, I don't think you were I think because of the pandemic, you haven't been traveling in February, have you? I
No,
don't,
I went to Anchorage last year.
did you? Okay, well then maybe
But
like
it wasn't
nobody was
not A
here.
meeting.
It wasn't a meeting week, okay. Well, last year, the last couple of years, we definitely canceled the February meeting. So I set a record, but also unfortunately, or fortunately brought back a meeting, so. Okay, but we're not done yet. So we have two regularly scheduled meetings in March, the 14th and the 28th. And that brings us to the approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes, all from the same meeting night, February 14th. I didn't have any alterations, but we had 2 public hearings that evening. So there's 2 sets from there, and then the regular meeting minutes. Did anybody have?
I have a question.
Sure.
Let me just show it to you. It's on. I have it in order. Which one is it? Page 4. It,
Public hearing or?
town board meeting, February 14th. So the question is on this. If somebody reads it later, because it says appoints Caitlin and Rich,
Mhm.
should we specify as like for our portion of the corporation?
Oh, yeah, no, we don't.
It
need-
doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because we have no capacity to appoint anybody else except for our
For us,
portion.
okay,
And so, and this is the resolution that, I mean, if you want to have explanatory language added, we can't change the resolution itself. But if you want anything added in the minutes to specify that you're doing it just for us, that's fine. But in the resolution, this is the same resolution that went both to Covert and Ulysses.
oh, I
So
see,
we need to
yeah,
have,
so we
a-
have to, yeah,
yeah, so we have to have, but that's why, yeah.
but it's the same resolution, but their
With-
names are. yeah,
Exactly, yeah, they,
Okay.
you know, it's the boilerplate is the
Sure.
same and then they're swapping out
Yeah,
the,
that was the
awesome.
only thing I saw.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Then, is there a motion to present, to approve the minutes, from those 3 board meetings, as presented?
Yeah, move to approve minutes.
There a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent. I will say just on, it's maybe not on the agenda, but I bet we could get away with it, which is just an update that, Blixie submitted the AED yesterday.
Oh,
The-
sweet.
So it was uploaded. It appears to have been successfully uploaded. And so we've closed out, the 2022 calendar year. And I'd like to give a shout out to Michelle and the Finance Committee in particular for their modified projections on tax revenue. They made some changes on our projections, and when the final numbers came in, we ended up with about $5,000 more in sales tax revenue than we had predicted, than they had predicted. And that's not a we, there, unless it's a royal we, because I didn't predict anything. And that's a darn good number. So that's well done. So thank you very much to the finance team and Michelle for getting those numbers.
Hey, Caitlin, sorry, it was 5,000 less.
5,000
Not one.
less.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not
Yes.
as exciting, but I'm okay with that too. That's okay.
So there was a session at the AOT. I didn't get a chance to go to it. It was in another session, but it was the modernized AUD coming soon. And it says the Office of the State Comptroller is releasing a new annual fiscal report application, which will be used to submit annual reports beginning with the fiscal periods ending in 2023.
Congratulations, Blixie and Michelle,
Like
for
next year.
Yeah, for this fiscal year.
a new
So we should stay
submission
tuned.
model. Oh,
Well, hopefully it is improved. It hasn't changed since Mary was the bookkeeper, so Mary can attest to how wonky of a system it is.
well, I am glad that it's done. Michael, is there anything you wanted to tell us about your AOT trip? Michelle also had a good AOT trip, but I'd love to hear from quickly too. But tell us your experience.
It seemed, I don't know, it seems smaller to you, Michelle?
Yeah,
There weren't as many
overheard
big-
on the elevator that there was about half as many people there as,
Oh, was it that much smaller?
yeah,
Okay.
2020. Yep. Yep.
But it was smaller. And, but they had went to the legislative session and they explained went over the resolutions. Schumer, did you see Schumer's presentation?
No, because I didn't pay for the conference. I didn't have a
breakfast?
ticket to the breakfast, right? So
Gosh,
I
you
could have
might
paid $80 to go to that breakfast, but I didn't think that was a good, what was that?
They weren't checking tickets. You should have just crashed.
Oh,
and
right,
walked-
I should have
walked
crashed
in
it.
with authority and just-
Oh, I lost my ticket.
And they had
All right,
plenty. That was
next
actually the
year.
highlight of my show. As I'll have to tell you after the meeting. But they had, Schumer was there, but I don't know if it was, he was traveling with the president, so he was in Poland or someplace. So because usually he addresses us every year and it's a long presentation. And then Tish James was there as the keynote speaker, so she was ribbing Schumer because she says, I get to speak this year because Senator Schumer is not here. And so that was fun. And so she was talking about what she's working on. Then they had their executive board they've got like a fourth vice president. It looks like they all kind of move up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there's not too much changing. I've got something in here that the people around the state that are trying to be officers in there. Again, the booths there was a whole section in the middle where like the trade floor, I call it, but they had tables set up there. I was like, oh, this is a little bit smaller. Usually Williamson Law is there, but I didn't see them this year. And then there was
Wow.
one session I went to that somebody was like software as a service. They're trying to do, looks like what Williamson does, but and then just lots of it was interesting. There was some hours that they only had 4 sessions and others they had like too many. They had like 8 of them or something. So it was and then you saw the book here. So it's anybody that gets a chance to go, I find it really informative and you get to listen to what other towns are going through. Many times I'm thankful for what we have here. I was with Mike Allinger and we stopped at the one booth together and he looked it up and said, oh, Ulysses, you guys have a shared services agreement. He says, Newfield, you guys don't have a shared services agreement. He says, oh, give me that form. So I was like, so it was anyway, it was a good show. And again, I get a lot out of it. So I
That's
think it's
great.
worth going.
Thank you for
to.
going.
Yeah.
Michelle, Michelle presented, so she was out there. How did your presentation go? And tell us a little bit about what you focused on.
I presented on the process that we went through to become GASB 34 compliant with our asset data management. And, just tried to do a nuts and bolts presentation meant to, try to help other towns who haven't started the process. And it was interesting, like Michael was saying, there was actually 2 other sessions going on at that time when I was presenting that I really wanted to go to. So I knew I had tough competition. So there weren't too many people there, but I was able to, the half of the people were there were towns about our size. And so it seemed like a really useful thing for them to hear what's possible, because I was selling it as a asset data management on a shoestring budget, which is exactly what we did. So, yeah, it was really good. Went well. And I'm gonna, if I go next year, I'm gonna see if I can just present the same thing, obviously update it. But I had the Department of State, which is a little bit of a ambiguous, nobody really knows what they do except for them. They try really hard to promote what their service is to New York State, but really they're meant to be a resource to local government. And there were sessions that you could sign up to have one-on-one consults with them, which I had done in 2020 also. So I signed up again this year to have a one-on-one consult. And during that time, the fellow who I was meeting with, his name's Kyle Wilbur, he asked me to come to present probably virtually to the Department of State that exact presentation. So I've got to line that up at some point. So that was a good sign to me, is that the Department of State wants to hear about that project. So yeah, it went well. Coming out of those conferences, I have a to-do list a mile long, and most of it is like, okay, in 5 years we could implement it. But I think that conference for me is really what propels initiatives forward for these, like, we're not just doing status quo in Ulysses. We really are. I'll steal Caitlin's line. We punch above our weight grade as far as the size of our time, or whatever that, however you say it, Caitlin, I can't remember. We do a good job. And yeah, that. we punch above our weight class. So, you know, and having that culture, having the culture already established in Ulysses, I think the AOT conference is a really good way to keep your eyes on the prize about like where we could be going instead of just like maintaining. So it's always inspirational in that way. You know, like I said, I always have this to-do list, and most of it is stuff that you can't be immediately implemented, but it's forming the vision of the direction the town's going in. So yeah, it's good stuff. Thank you for sending me.
Yeah, thanks for going.
We appreciate the representation. Is there, I was waiting to see in some ways if there was also anybody else from the public who wished to join us. We don't have anybody. That
Did
is
Rich
here.
call in to do item 9?
Rich is in Florida. I'm sure having a miserable time and not enjoying any of the sunlight that is available down there.
Missing all this snow.
Exactly. I'm sure he's missing us terribly right now. We will have to brag to him. Seeing as how I don't have a recording of his voice, then I will turn it over to somebody else to make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Excellent.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.